British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has now resigned. He is going to, he's resigned as leader of the Conservative Party, which means the Conservative Party of the United Kingdom will be looking to find a new leader of the Conservative Party who will consequently be the next Prime Minister. Before we get into all of this, I just want all of you to hear the resignation speech of Boris Johnson, who will soon be the ex-Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Here is Boris Johnson. Miss Engineer, if you could play this, please.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you. It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister. And I've agreed with Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of our backbench.
First of all, let me just, I see he's got a Ukrainian pin on him. I mean, this whole thing with Ukraine, if you want, maybe he should resign and go be Prime Minister of Ukraine. All the Ukrainian flags I see on British government buildings, everything, I mean, it's ridiculous. Anyway, let's continue. Focus on your own country.
MPs, the process of choosing that new leader should begin now. And the timetable will be announced next week. And I've today appointed a cabinet to serve, as I will, until a new leader is in place. So I want to say to the millions of people who voted for us in 2019, many of them voting Conservative for the first time, thank you for that incredible mandate, the biggest Conservative majority since 1987, the biggest share of the vote since 1979. And the reason I have fought so hard in the last few days to continue to deliver that mandate in person was not just because I wanted to do so, but because I felt it was my job, my duty, my obligation to you to continue to do what we promised in 2019. And of course, I'm immensely proud of the achievements of this government, from getting Brexit done to settling our relations with the continent for over half a century, reclaiming the power for this country to make its own laws in Parliament, getting us all through the pandemic, delivering the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, the fastest exit from lockdown, and in the last few months, leading the West in standing up to Putin's aggression in Ukraine. And let me say now to the people of Ukraine that I know that we in the UK will continue to back your fight for freedom for as long as it takes. And at the same time, in this country, we've been pushing forward a vast program of investment in infrastructure and skills and technology, the biggest in a century, because if I have one insight into human beings, it is the genius and talent and enthusiasm and imagination are evenly distributed throughout the population, but opportunity is not. And that's why we must keep leveling up, keep unleashing the potential of every part of the United Kingdom. And if we can do that in this country, we will be the most prosperous in Europe. And in the last few days, I've tried to persuade my colleagues that it would be eccentric to change governments when we're delivering so much, and when we have such a vast mandate, and when we're actually only a handful of points behind in the polls, even in mid-term after quite a few months of pretty relentless sledging, and when the economic scene is so difficult domestically and internationally. And I regret not to have been successful in those arguments, and of course it's painful not to be able to see through so many ideas and projects myself. But as we've seen at Westminster, the herd instinct is powerful. When the herd moves, it moves. And my friends, in politics, no one is remotely indispensable. And our brilliant and Darwinian system will produce another leader equally committed to taking this country forward through tough times, not just helping families to get through it, but changing and improving the way we do things, cutting burdens on businesses and families, and yes, cutting taxes, because that is the way to generate the growth and the income we need to pay for great public services. And to that new leader, I say, whoever he or she may be, I say, I will give you as much support as I can. And to you, the British public, I know that there will be many people who are relieved and perhaps quite a few who will also be disappointed. And I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks. I want to thank Carrie and our children, all members of my family who've had to put up with so much for so long. I want to thank the peerless British civil service for all the help and support that you have given our police, our emergency services, and of course, our fantastic NHS, who at critical moments helped to extend my own period in office, as well as our armed services and our agencies that are so admired around the world, and our indefatigable Conservative Party members and supporters, whose selfless campaigning makes our democracy possible. I want to thank the wonderful staff here at Chequers, here at number 10, and of course at Chequers, and our fantastic prop force detectives, the one group, by the way, who never leak. Above all, I want to thank you, the British public, for the immense privilege that you have given me. And I want you to know that from now on until the new Prime Minister is in place, your interests will be served and the government of the country will be carried on. Being Prime Minister is an education in itself. I've traveled to every part of the United Kingdom, and in addition to the beauty of our natural world, I found so many people possessed of such boundless British originality and so willing to tackle old problems in new ways that I know that even if things can sometimes seem dark now, our future together is golden. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
So that's courtesy of the Telegraph, British newspaper. And that's Boris Johnson resigning he's resigning as the leader of his party, which means that he's going to no longer be prime minister, because if you're not going to be leader of the party, that means that someone else is going to take your place. And once that person takes your place, they're going to be prime minister. My thoughts on the resignation is that it's good. He should resign. I've been very, very hostile towards Boris Johnson. Number one, and the title of this video speaks for itself, a tragic end to a premiership that could have been great. I supported Boris Johnson strongly when he was first prime minister. When he got in there, he was the Brexit prime minister. He was going to get Brexit done, something that Theresa May, the former prime minister, failed to do. Her heart was not really in it. Boris's heart seemed to be in it, and he got Brexit done. Though I will say he didn't get it done to satisfactorily enough, and the proof of that is the fact that Britain is still in the European High Court of Justice, or whatever it's called, and they're now trying to block British decisions when it comes to migrants, sending them to Rwanda, even though I personally don't think that's a good idea. Not because I think, oh, you should sending migrants to Rwanda, that's so mean. No. I don't care about if you come into a country illegally, I sympathize with you if you have a hard life, but no. I think that Rwanda is such a great country. I would say it's pretty much almost first world. It's one of the only, nobody likes to talk good things about Africa, but Rwanda, it's a great country. And to bring all these illegals there is just going to bring it down. And that disappoints me. But nevertheless, I liked him in the beginning, but ever since he fell along with that coronavirus narrative, that was when it was done for me. I do not support any leader, conservative, left-wing, centrist, whatever, any leader who went along with the mandates and all this stuff over this virus that kills less than 1% of people who get it, I'm done with. You are disgusting. You are worse than dirt, trash to me. And to make matters worse, Boris Johnson not only went along with the mandates, he didn't even follow his own mandates, going to parties in Downing Street, the Prime Minister's house. I mean, not once, but in several times, drunken parties. And these were serious parties. These are parties that would make Friday night at frat houses look like tea and crumpets. I mean, these were wild parties. A swing set was apparently broken. And meanwhile, other people in Britain were being abused by police. Church leaders were having their church services publicly shut down. People were being beaten, maybe even killed on the streets if they didn't follow these stupid, evil, reckless, nonsensical, useless mandates. And Boris Johnson, he wasn't afraid of coronavirus. He knew it was only a virus that killed less than 1% of people who got it. He knew it, but he went along with it. I don't know if it's because he's a part of the liberal globalist system. I know his wife is, or is he just weak? And he couldn't stand up to the lockdown fanatics and the liberal globalists and the New World Order, like people like Ron DeSantis stood up to them, and others in America and other places. Bolsonaro in Brazil, they stood up, and Boris Johnson was too weak to stand up. I think that's why he's leaving today. I mean, everyone's talking about some sex scandal, some guy named Pinchy, I don't know what, some guy pinching, his name is Pincher, that's his surname, and he was caught pinching the butt of a boy in a club. I mean, my God. His name is Pincher, and he pinches the butts of boys in clubs, and apparently this is not the first time he's done this. But I don't think that's the real reason he's going. I mean, it's just been one thing after another with Boris Johnson. I mean, but the thing I can't forgive, I mean, all that stuff of, with Carrie Johnson and wallpaper and all that sort of stuff, whatever. I mean, apparently his wife wanted to fix up down and go, look, you fix up the place. If it's not up to your standards, you're the prime minister. You deserved it. Fix it up. Who cares? I don't care. If you want to get new wallpaper and charge it to the government, I mean, who else is going to pay for it? I mean, that's so anyway, but I can't forgive Boris Johnson for going along with the mandates. And I definitely can't forgive him. I would say it's a criminal offense for him to not even follow his own rules. And that's why I support his resignation. And as I say, he could have been a great prime minister. Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, Gladstone. I mean, he could have been one of the greats. Boris really, really screwed himself up. And I believe it's because of the mandates. If he had stood firm, I mean, there were things, remember Margaret Thatcher, British Prime Minister, she stood up for things that were very unpopular. Very, very unpopular, riots in the streets of Britain, and she stood firm. The lady's not for turning. I mean, she was a tough, and she won not a second, but she won 3 election victories. 3. People like it when you stand your, and I know Boris Johnson didn't think these mandates made any sense. Everybody knows that. He's only doing it because he's weak. He's not afraid of coronavirus. He's there having parties, raucous parties. This isn't some kind of little church service with little old ladies. These were some rocking parties. I wish I could have gone. And I'm not upset with him for having parties. I'm upset with him for being a hypocrite, saying that no one else can have parties, no one else can gather, and he's allowed to gather. And if it wasn't for the brave and courageous actions of Dominic Cummings, who, everybody's now banging on about Dominic Cummings and how he's a traitor. He's a patriot. He should be knighted. I think he should be the next prime minister. If it wasn't for him calling out and shining the light on these parties, Boris would have probably gotten away with it. So he's gone. And I think he was a populist conservative. He could have been great. I mean, the things that he wanted, leveling up the Northern England, working class conservative. Same with me. I'm an independent, though, by the way. But I'm a working class populist conservative. I'm not a high Tory, elitist, free trade. No. If you were to, my kind of conservatism is not necessarily, Ronald Reagan or even Margaret Thatcher. My type of conservative is Pat Buchanan, Ron Paul. I mean, working class, somewhat small government, but a government not necessarily that small, but a government that serves the people, not tries to dictate, but serves them equally. Servant. That's the type of conservative I am. I'm not a high, class, suburban, business first. Everything has to be about business. To hell with the laboring classes. The wealth will just trickle down to them. No. That's not the kind of conservative I am. I'm a working class conservative. Hey, I have no qualm. I'm a protectionist too. I don't think there's anything wrong with protecting your economy. I'm not an isolationist. Did I say I'm not an isolationist? I'm a protectionist. I believe we have to protect our economy above all. And free trade. I mean, yeah, I believe in free trade, but it has to be trade. We can't sell out industries that we can build ourselves and ship in industries from China and all these other places. If we can build it ourselves, if we can grow it ourselves, then we should. And anything that we can't build or grow ourselves, then we can get it into from other countries and trade them some of our products. That's the kind of free trade I support. And that's what I thought Boris Johnson was. And I think that's what he could have been and what he wanted to be. But because he went along with these mandates, these evil mandates, he went along with, he knew it didn't make sense. He knew, but he went along with it. And then to make matters worse, he did what he wanted others not to do. He needs to resign. Having said that, I know the leader of the Labour Party, which is the Social Democratic Party of Britain, Keir Starmer, wants to have a vote of no confidence. He's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to win that. Boris Johnson can stay as prime minister until his replacement is selected. They say it's going to be sometime in September or October. Fine, let him be a caretaker prime minister until then. He's been beaten down already. He's been whooped already. He's been beaten down. There's nothing left to take from Boris. Leave him there. I forgive him now because he's resigned. Now that he's resigned, I forgive him. He's not going to be prime minister anymore. Now, for who's going to replace him? A lot of people that's one of the reasons why he stayed on so long, because a lot of people thought that his replacement was going to be a lot worse, and I could see their point. I mean, I still think he should resign because, I mean, honestly, if Boris Johnson was going to go into the next election as leader of the Conservatives, I'd rather Labour win. I wouldn't vote for them. I'm not British, so I can't, but I wouldn't support them. No, I don't support Labour. I don't support the Lib Dems. I would sooner endorse Reform UK. But if it was if the Labour Party won over Boris, I would be upset. I'd be sorry for the British people, but I wouldn't. I would say that was because of Boris. Really, maybe now the Conservatives have a chance. A lot of people are talking about, this woman here, Liz Truss. She's in the cabinet. Michael Gove, He was recently fired by Boris Johnson and because he was disloyal. Jeremy Hunt, who's what in Canada we'd call a red Tory. People like what's this guy's name again? Miss Engineer, Philip Hunt. Philip Hunt. These are. I would rather not somebody who was in the cabinet. I've been doing some research, and there are some great people whom I think could replace Boris Johnson. I've been looking into it. Some great people who are Brexiteers, which I support, and people who were skeptical of the mandates. And one of them is this guy, William Ragg. And it says here in his bio, he's a Brexiteer and a member of the Common Sense group of Tories. Ragg was a critic of the Prime Minister over lockdown rules, but he has said he has become gradually more disgusted with Johnson's moral character and submitted his letter after the resignation of Allegra Stratton. He said he could not hide his views with ever more elaborate disguises. Ragg, the chair of the Public Administration and Constitutional Affairs Committee, has been chosen council of more inexperienced MPs who are frustrated with Johnson. And the MP for Hazel Grove has led the charge against party whips for their alleged intimidation tactics against backbenchers, including reporting them to the police. His seat is a key Liberal Democrat target. So he would be one of my favorites. I mean, he's a Brexiteer because I supported Brexit. I'm glad Britain, British people are very sensible. They always tend to do the right thing, in my opinion. Brexit, when they left the liberal globalistic European Union, and Ragg was supportive of Brexit, and he's a critic of lockdowns, and hopefully he's also a critic of mandates as well. I believe he would be. So he would be on my top list. This guy, Ben Wallace, he's the favorite apparently. He's the Minister of Defense. I don't know much about him, but although he is the favorite, apparently I've been hearing that he could be the next prime minister. I've been trying to see if he's a Brexiteer. I believe he might actually be, but I want to know if he was also a critic of mandates. I'm not too sure about. He probably wasn't, because he was in the cabinet for such a long time, and there was a moment about a year ago when there were a large group of conservative members of parliament who voted against Boris Johnson's so-called Plan B measures, which were measures which include the vaccine pass and all this sort of stuff. And I didn't see his name on that list, so I don't know. He may be the favorite, but to be honest with you, I'm more concerned about whether or not the individual is pro-freedom and anti-mandate over Brexit. Brexit's important, but and Britain has pretty much all of its freedoms back, but it's the principle about it. I don't want somebody in there who was a big proponent of these mandates, because if something else happens, then it might come back. We're going back now. This is Philip Hunt. And then you've got people like Rishi Sunak, and this is this guy's name here? I just had his name, Mark Harper. And then this is Rishi Sunak, who was I believe he was Minister of Health, and he was. I don't know if I trust him. I don't know if I would trust him. I mean, he was I think he's a Brexit supporter, but I think he's big on mandates. So there you have it. And one of my personal favorites, even though he's a bit of an older gentleman, not many people may have heard about him, but I like him. And I think he should be prime minister if he wants the job, even though he's a bit old. But hell, we got Joe Biden up there, and he barely put two sentences together. And so far, America hasn't necessarily burned down or anything. But, but David Davis, he is a Brexiteer, a staunch Brexiteer, and he's also very skeptical of mandates. So he would be my personal favorite. As I said, he's a bit elderly, but I think he's younger than Joe Biden, and he can put two sentences together. So hey, if Joe Biden can be president of the United States, and I mean, yeah, America's in a bad position, but but why can't this guy do it? But if I were to support someone so far, it would be William Ragg. I mean, I like the fact that he's not only Brexiteer, but he was against a lot of the lockdown measures. So there you have it. That's pretty much the lay of the land. When will Boris Johnson not be prime minister? Well, apparently the 1922 committee, which is a conservative British conservative insider group, very powerful within the Conservative Party. They're going to lay out a timetables next week as to when the new leader will be chosen. It's probably going to be in the fall, which is fine. Whatever. Let Boris stay there until the fall. He's already going to leave, and I mean, if he goes back on his word, that's going to be a different thing. It would be unprecedented, but but whatever. Let him stay until the new leader is chosen, and hopefully the new leader is pro-Brexit, anti-mandate, and I mean, this might be a little bit too spoiled of me, but I think we need somebody who is a populist and who believes in energy independence. With all the high cost of energy and all this sort of stuff, we need to be more diverse with our energy. All this green stuff, yeah, it's good, but most people still have fuel powered cars. We still have gas. So until there are no more gas cars for sale, and until all countries have given up on their fossil fuels, every single country, even North Korea, and until there is no more market for gas cars, we still need to be drilling for oil and fracking for gas and doing all sorts of stuff with coal and all that sort of stuff. We can't just give up cold turkey and we all have to suffer for the next 20, 30 years of high gas prices and all that stuff. That's unacceptable to me. So anyway, that's the story from Britain there. Boris Johnson has resigned. And this is